Are you ready to enter the crazy world of Japanese slang? And by crazy, I mean it's a little crazy. Then buckle up because today we are going to jump in, dive right into stuff you will never learn in a Japanese textbook. Today we're going to learn Japanese slang. So let's get started. Yoshi, hajimemashou! What's up, everybody? I'm Caitlin from Fluent in 3 Months, and today I'm going to teach you all about Japanese slang because I know that this is something that a lot of Japanese learners want to learn but don't really know where to begin. And especially if you've primarily taken Japanese in a classroom, forget it, you'll never learn it. So today that's what we're going to be talking about, and I just want to state this disclaimer here. While I'm not going to give you any of the Japanese dirty words in this video, some of these words should be used with care still because you definitely don't want to say them in an office environment in Japan with people you don't know. Definitely keep it between close friends that are on like the same age level as you. That's super important in Japanese culture to make sure that you're always talking with the right level of politeness for the group that you're in. So just keep that in mind when you're learning these Japanese slang words and using them and practicing them. So for instance, if you did want to use these slang terms with a Japanese language exchange partner who is not on your social level, then just kind of give them a heads up and tell them, hey, I know that these aren't words that I would typically use with you in Japan, but I just want to be able to practice them so that if I'm in a situation where I can use them, I have the practice. And usually they'll be okay with that, and it's kind of, like role play in your language exchange. But just give them that heads up so you don't dive into the language exchange using language that's not appropriate for your level of acquaintance or friendship. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get right to it. Yabai. Yabai can literally mean anything. It can mean something is fantastic and great and amazing, or it can mean that's terrible and crazy and I hate it. So you just kind of have to read the context with this one. It's kind of like wow in English, right? I mean, in English we say wow when something is really awesome, like oh, wow, or when something is really bad, we'll be like wow. See what I mean? That is the same with yabai. Uzai. Uzai is short for urusai, which means annoying or irritating. So again, you wouldn't want to use this with just anybody because obviously calling someone annoying is not very nice. But if you're talking to someone like your kid brother or a close friend, you're kind of just teasing them, you can be like, uzai, kimoi. I've got a bad feeling about this. Alright, so that's my Star Wars reference for this video. Kimoi basically means just that, though. It means that you have a bad feeling because it's short for kimochi warui. And kimochi warui literally means to have a bad feeling. So anytime you have a bad feeling about something, kimoi is the slang term used to describe it. It's usually written in katakana, and sometimes it can be used as just like an exclamation too, to say something's like disgusting or ew. So it can be like kimoi ne, to be like, oh, that's gross, right? Ikemen. Ikemen is a word used to describe like very suave guys. Think like in English we say tall, dark, and handsome. That's exactly what it means for Japanese. It's usually someone who is slender, very good looking, kind of mysterious and aloof, and very intelligent. So if you think of that kind of guy, which a lot of like the Japanese actors are, John Matsumoto, that is an ikemen. Maji or majide. This is a super common slang term, and it basically means just seriously or for real. So it kind of has that kind of connotation. Sometimes it's not used with like a disgusted type of seriously, but you'll hear this so often with anything that's surprising, shocking. You'll hear all the time, like on Terrace House when I'm watching that, it's always maji or majide. So both forms are fine, they mean the same thing. It's just maji's a little bit shorter and a little bit harsher. Usually you'll hear guys say maji and girls say majide, hampanai. This one is used very similarly to yabai. It usually means things like kick-ass, incredible, or outrageous. Hampa means that something's halfway or unfinished. So when you think of hampa, it's usually like an unfinished project, right? Something that's done half-assed. Because it's in the negative form with nai, hampa nai, that actually means that it's not half-assed, it's whole-assed. To quote Ron Swanson for you from Parks and Rec, which basically means it's just totally awesome. Mukatsuku. Mukatsuku means that you're very angry. It actually comes from onomatopoeia, and it basically means that you're pissed. It comes from muka muka suru and tsukuru, and it basically just means that someone has made you very irritated. So it is a strong term, but it's a very common complaint to hear between friends. Saite. Saite means that something is the lowest. It is the worst of the worst. So a lot of times you'll hear people say that to each other jokingly, like if they've done something that was very irritating, they'll be like, saite, because they're the worst. But on the flip side of that, you can also say saiko, which means that it's the best. It's your favorite. It's the coolest ever. Ukeru. Ukeru means that's funny or like haha. It's actually used on Facebook. If you have your Facebook set to Japanese, the little laughing emoji is labeled ukeru. Tokyo Ben slang. Cho. Cho means very or totally, and it's just another word for totemo. It's less casual though. Hazui. Hazui is short for hazukashi, which means to be embarrassed. So hazui just means that you're feeling very embarrassed and your face is getting red. Uso. Uso means no way or you're lying, and is a very common thing to hear, especially if someone says something shocking like we talked about before. A common response is either maji or uso. Kansai Ben slang. So Kansai is like the area around like Osaka and Kyoto, and that area tends to have its own regional dialect. So like if you think of like an American southern accent, that's kind of the equivalent of Kansai Ben. So where Tokyo is very standardized in their speech, Kansai is a bit more slangy and sometimes a bit more harsh too, with endings like ya, nen, and hen. Mecha. Mecha means exactly the same thing as to. It means very or totally, but it's just Kansai Ben. However, this one is so popular that it's starting to be said by like everyone, no matter where you live. Honma. This one is very similar to saying like uso or majide, except for their exclamation Kansai area would be honma. Chaude. Chaude is very similar to how in like Tokyo Ben you'll hear chigau. That's wrong, and it means the same thing. It's an exclamation to say that somebody's doing something wrong. Nande yanen. Nande yanen means what the heck? So it's a very strong saying, but very common to hear. Japanese text and internet slang. This could be a whole video, article, textbook on its own. This is where Japanese really gets crazy because they start combining numbers, American alphabet, Japanese kanji, all kinds of things all into one to make their abbreviation. So it's very, very hard as a gaikokujin to understand. So I'm going to give you a few here. There are more in the article, which you can read in the description box. So let's check it out. KY. KY is short for kuki yomenai, and that literally means someone can't read the atmosphere. Typically, this is said about someone when they are very clueless. They can't pick up on the context of a situation based on like body language and stuff, which is very crucial to Japanese culture and conversation. So even in Japanese culture, sometimes there are people who are really clueless about this stuff, and they're called KY. Now, Nau means now. It's literally taken from the Japanese word to sound like that. You'll see this a lot on like Japanese Twitter. It's definitely a very common phrase, and a lot of Japanese words do this where they come from English, and they'll say things like now or no more for no more. So things like that typically get translated, and sometimes they're not always written in katakana so that you know. This is an example of where it's written in hiragana, but it is actually taken from English. W. Yes, just W. W is basically short for warau, which means to laugh in Japanese. And instead of LOL in Japanese, a lot of times they'll use the kanji character for warau. And since it starts with W, they'll sometimes shorten it and just put the character W to express that they're laughing, kind of like LOL. Guguru. I'm sure you can guess what that means, but guguru means Google, and it's such a common thing, just like how we say we've turned Google into a verb in English where we say we're Googling it. In Japanese, you can do the same thing. It's guguru suru. So to do, Google. Donmai. Donmai is another one that's supposed to sound like don't mind in English, but it actually is a shortened form of the Japanese phrase nandemonai, which means it's nothing and don't worry about it. This kanji, which is read otsu. So this kanji is very obscure. It's actually usually just used as a radical anymore, but it's read as otsu, which is short for otsukare-sama deshita. which means you must be tired, or thank you for all your hard work. So if you get this kanji as a reply on social media or text, it's just saying, thank you for your hard work. This is actually really funny because we do the same thing in English, but if you've ever seen like a clickbaity article where someone saves you time and just posts the answer to it in the comments, and then people are like, oh, thank you for this. They do the same thing in Japan. So if they see a clickbait article and someone's done that, they've given you the answer in the comment section, people will just reply with this kanji, meaning, thank you for your hard work, and, otsukare 555. Again, this is where you have to kind of start connecting the dots to understand these slang terms. But a lot of times in like gaming chat rooms, you'll see 555 because it's easier to type 555 than it is to type go, go, go. And this is actually taken from English where we tell people go, go, go. So if you see 555, 5 in Japanese is go. So they're just saying to go, go, go. You'll also see this sometimes with the number 8 where it's 888 because 8 is said as hachi. So it's hachi, 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 which is the Japanese onomatopoeia for clapping. So if someone did something really awesome online or in the game, then they'll say 888 to clap. Kon or npi. Yeah, this is really kind of hard to say because it's not how you would say it in any language, but this is another example where they start to combine English characters with Japanese characters, and they don't make a lot of sense unless you know. So kon, ko, in is short for konnichiwa or konbanwa, and it just means hello, and it's just quicker to type out. On the Japanese keyboard, to get the single character in, you have to press it twice. Otherwise, the first time you press it, it's just going to be the English character in, which is why this is just a lazy way of typing it, basically, and why it's a combo of the Japanese character for ko and the English character for in. The same is true for NP. So Japanese character in and then plus P. You can't write it as in and then get to the P easily, so you have to double tap the N, but then just write P, so it's short for no problem, like how in English we abbreviate it to NP. Again, the reason for that is because of how the Japanese keyboard works, so it's a lazy way of writing it. Alright, I hope that's helped you start understand the Japanese slang on the internet, regional dialects, and for everyday conversations. As always, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to check out the link in the description box for the article that has all of the slang words. I included over 60 slang words to help you understand Japanese slang, and they include swear words and insults in case you're feeling like offending someone when you go to Japan. So anyway, until next time guys, mata ne, ja ne! Want to learn how to speak and read Japanese? Then you need to check out Ollie Richards' Japanese Uncovered. Japanese Uncovered is my favorite Japanese resource for learning how to read in Japanese and really getting to a point where you feel comfortable reading in the language and speaking the language. He teaches you how to learn Japanese through story, which honestly is my favorite approach to learning now. So check out the link in the description box below that will take you to Japanese Uncovered by Ollie Richards. It's been one of my favorite resources for learning Japanese, and I know you'll love it too.